I believe that everyone has at least one great story that only they can tell. Maybe it's about the night you spent in a haunted house, or the time you and your best friend were on a road trip to score Creed tickets only to discover that no one camps out for tickets anymore, and in the end, you just called Ticketmaster. Or maybe it's the story of the time you spent with a loved one just before they passed. My best story is dedicated to discovering these stories and releasing them into the wild, one guest at a time. I'm Travis Tidmore. Join me as I discover Lanie Labens' best story. Hey, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
So, Lanie, tell us your backstory.
So I'm Lanie Labens. I run a company called I Don't Do Subtle Management. I rep actors for Comic-Con appearances. I started the company with my partner, Daniel, who I know you know,
Yes.
when I was 20.
Okay.
So I'm 28 now. I'll be 29 in less than a month. And so I've been doing this for quite a few years, quite a few formidable years of my life. I've been fortunate to I've been to 15 countries doing it. I have met all sorts of cool people. I've even met cool animals. I've done all sorts of cool stuff doing this job.
So Lanie, what is your best story?
Well, I had to do some soul searching for this because I had to in doing this and in dealing with people, I've had a lot of I think best is relative, and I've had some stories that I'm like, that was horrible at the time, but that's hilarious now, or like that's fun. And so I actually consulted my lawyer. One of my best friends is a lawyer, and I told her, and we talked about it. And there's a particularly hilarious but like sensitive story, and she talked me out of telling that one because it's just honestly it's gotten out of hand. So she's like, stop telling it. I'm like, okay, well. So instead, I'm going to tell one that was positive, that kind of encapsulates different aspects of my career and my experience in this industry. So when I started my company in 2012, I think it was, I think we started in 2011, but we didn't get our first client and our first show booked until 2012. And so that was going to be February of 2012 in Dallas. But of course, everything worked out to be just a mess, and there was a snowstorm in the Northeast, and my client could not get to Dallas. So Daniel and I are in Dallas. We're at this con with no client, and that was going to be like our first big thing, and we were so excited, and then it didn't happen. So cut to April of that year, and someone hit me up. A friend, I think it was a friend from high school, was like, hey, they need talent handlers, wranglers at the Texas Film Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I know you have some experience with talent wrangling. Would you be willing to come help? And I was like, sure, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I had a little bit of experience. I had volunteered for other people that are my colleagues now, agents and stuff like that. So I knew my way around, how to deal with personalities, and I worked customer service for a long time. So I was like, I can handle it. So I got there, and then I don't know exactly what happened, if they didn't have all the talent show up they were supposed to. Anyway, they didn't need me. And so they were basically like, well, can you just hang around here? You can enjoy the ceremony. You can go, just hang out backstage. And if we need something from you, we'll call you. And I was like, all right. So I'm this 21-year-old running around, and it's all of these, big deal. I was, 5 feet from Quentin Tarantino, like all these people that are hugely influential, he actually did the opening ceremony, and like, it was super cool. I got to see him speak. And so there's all these like really heavy hitters walking around and stuff like that. And then somebody comes up to me and they're like, hey, have you seen Tom Welling? And I was like, no, I have not. What are you talking about? And so for reference, Smallville started when I was in 5th grade, and he's very cute. And I'm very nerdy. And so like, I loved Smallville. It wasn't quite Buffy level, which Buffy is gospel for me. But I was pretty into Smallville for a few years. So when someone came up to me and said that to me, I was like, what are you talking about? So they were like, well, can you go find him? And I'm like, sure. Sure. So I'm running around backstage, and I don't really get starstruck. I don't know. I feel like it's because I really have I like to think I have a good grasp on just like the humanity of other humans, right? So it's like
Yeah.
it's cool that I've seen that person on TV, but at the end of the day, like they really are just a person. So I wasn't really worried about that, even though I was like, oh my God, Tom Welling, like, oh my God. So I did find him, and I said, I actually don't know what I said, because he smiled at me, and I just like kind of pointed where he needed to go because I did not expect him to smile at me. And that sounds like no big deal, but he has maybe the best smile on the planet. So, okay. So that happened. So cut to all these years later, 2018, I was in Brazil with my client, Ricky Whittle, and another agent friend of mine walked over to, so at CCXP in Brazil, the photo booths are separate rooms. They make these like freestanding rooms that are the booths. And so we're in one, so we don't know who's next to us or whatever. And it turned out on one side was Sandra Bullock, who was meeting fans. Like that's like, it was crazy. So anyway, and then on the other side was Tom Welling, and his agent comes over and says, hey, good to see you guys. Have you met Tom? You got to come meet Tom. And I was like, oh, here we go. I got to tell him this story, whatever. So I walk in, and we introduce ourselves, and I tell him, I say, oh, in 2012, I was at a Texas Hall of Fame film induction thing, and you were there, and blah blah, and he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I was like, what? I was like, why are you sorry? He was like, well, because you're my type, and I'm sure I was just a dog back then. I about died, and I said, well, I'm not your type anymore. And he was like, no, you are, but now I'm taken, so I much better behave. And I'll send you the picture, because then we took a picture, and the smile on my face was ridiculous. And so Ricky and I were walking away, and he had this like funny look on his face, and I was like, what's wrong with you? And he was like, I don't know, just you and Superman just had that exchange, and I just don't know about all of that.
That's awesome.
So that's one of my favorites to tell, because he was so gracious and so kind, and it brought me all the way back to being like 11 years old again, and it definitely boosted my confidence for quite a while. So
that's really awesome. I've heard he's a nice guy. Hopefully I get to meet him one day.
I hope you do. He's lovely, and let me tell you, his $1 million smile is the same as it was when I was 11, and then again when I met him in 2012, and then 2018. So, yeah, he's just absolutely lovely, and I hope you get to meet him, because it is worth it. I'm very particular about that's something that's important to me when I work with people, is I want people who are going to give the best fan experience, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. And so when I meet someone else who is gracious and good like that, it just really makes me happy, because that's what it's all about to me. So
yeah,
like that. No, made my day.
Well, that's awesome. Well, where can people find you online? Where can they find out more about your agency?
So my handle on all social media is my first and last name, so Lanie Labens. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. My company is IDDS MGMT. That's I don't do subtle. Abbreviated. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have Twitter. I love hearing people's stories and stuff like that, and especially anybody out there who's met my clients and had a good experience. If you haven't shared them with us before, please share them with me. So I would love to connect with everybody.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It was a blast.
No problem. And we may have to have you back for another story sometime in the future.
Yes, I will think of some more appropriate ones.
Well, someday maybe I can get that inappropriate one out of you.
Maybe so. I just joked with my mom that I was going to call my memoir Celebrities That Have Been Mean to Me and Other Stories. And she's like, you can't do that. And I was like, I'm going to.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much again.
Have a great day, Travis.
You too.
Bye-bye.
A huge thanks to Lanie for being our guest today. As always, new episodes drop right here every Tuesday and Thursday. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Our title music is Red, White, Black, and Blue by Peg and the Rejected. If you have a story you'd like to tell on the show, hit us up on our Facebook page, on Twitter at MyBestStoryShow, or via email at mybeststorypodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, go live your best story.